In times like these, we all need a word of encouragement. From pastor and best-selling author Max Lucado comes the Max Lucado Encouraging Word podcast. With over 40 years of ministry and more than 145 million books sold in 50 languages, Max shares the greatest story ever told, the living Savior who brings hope for a lifetime. Through rich biblical insight, heartfelt storytelling, you'll be reminded that God is always near, always for you, and always in you. Listen to the Max Lucado Encouraging Word podcast, where hope meets your day. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake it off with Mert and Lucas. Live starts now on AM 970. The Answer.
Nice beat, Alex. What's the name of that one?
All right, this is called by Pretty Beats Hip Hop Basketball. Pretty John 1.
Hip Hop Basketball. How fitting. Because the next story is one that's ripping through the NBA like a fast break on steroids. Mert, on Monday, March 30th, the Chicago Bulls dropped a bomb. They waived guard Jaden Ivey because of conduct detrimental to the team. That's the quote. Conduct detrimental to the team. Sounds boilerplate, right? Well, that's until you dig in and realize that this wasn't about missed practices or locker room drama or even about his knee issues that have kept him off games since February. But no, this was about words. Specifically, Ivey's raw, unfiltered Instagram live rants where he took dead aim at the NBA's celebration of Pride Month, calling it, here we go, Mert, ready for this? A promotion of unrighteousness. Whoa, the audience is shocked. But if you're just catching up, and let's be real, social media has been exploding over this story. Ivey, a 24-year-old former number 5 overall pick out of Purdue by the Detroit Pistons back in 2022, didn't hold back. He went live for 45 minutes, weaving in religion, scripture, and direct criticism of the league's inclusivity push. The Bulls, fresh off of acquiring him in a mid-season deal, decided enough was enough. He was waived. Done. And just like that, a promising young talent finds himself a free agent who, by the way, still owed the bulk of his $10 million plus salary if no one claims him. But this isn't just another player saying controversial things. It's a flashpoint. It pits religious conviction against the NBA's very public, very corporate commitment to LGBTQ plus advocacy. It raises questions about free speech in a league that markets itself as global progressive powerhouse. And yeah, it's got everyone from podcasters to players picking sides. So let's break it down, Mert, and let's discuss what this means for the league going forward. Care to share any thoughts about this unrighteousness?
Well, I'm going to say this because I'm probably going to say something different than most people, but I think that what Jaden Ivey did was very cowardly, because going after a very pigeonholed group such as the gay community, going after Catholics, going after religion, people who are just, and doing it close to Easter, it's cowardly, because if you want to be this big moral authority, this big figure who is promoting right and wrong and promoting the God and Christianity, if this is what persona you want to pursue, if this is the person you want to be, then I need you to do something a little bit more brave. Why don't you just donate your entire salary?
The 10 million plus, yeah.
Right. Not to the LGBT community, not to Catholic or whatever you. continue to play, continue to endure, because obviously this was such a traumatic thing for you. Continue to endure. And at the end of every season, you donate all of your money to these causes that you support, or this particular denomination of Christianity that you support. Don't walk away and take all that gorgeous money and leave it on the table. No. If you really want to put out there a message that would make people want to follow in your direction and say, man, this guy really is standing up for something, he should have kept playing, and he should have donated his entire salary to that of what he supports, and he shouldn't have said anything about the LGBT or the Catholics. Don't condemn anybody, because it's easy to do that. All you got to do is say, this is bad. No, stick it out. Stick it out and put your money where your mouth is and give your entire salary to the causes that you support, just like the NBA is doing. The NBA is doing that.
I have a different spin on it, and I disagree with you, Mert.
Of course you do.
If the NBA is so evil because it supports something that he viewed as sinful, basically, he kept calling it unrighteous, then he shouldn't have accepted the position at the NBA. You don't accept, what I'm disagreeing with you about, Mert, you don't accept money that you think is dirty, that's tainted, because then that reflects poorly on you. What the heck is he doing at the NBA if he felt so strongly about this issue?
That's too easy, too. That's too easy. I don't like that.
Well, that's easy because if that's how he believes, if that's his belief, that it's dirty, that it's unrighteous, then what are you accepting money from a dirty the National Basketball Association? I
want him to go into the Lions Den. Go into the Lions Den and clean it up by leading by example. I want you to make a statement so loud that the NBA says, we need to follow this young man's leadership.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to be silent, Mert. Isn't it the whole point? The whole point was he was reacting to the league's support of the LGBT community and Pride Month and all the, painting the court pink or whatever they do to celebrate the themes. He was objecting to that.
Well, the real story is this. He's been dealing with injuries. He's been bounced around. Right. He's probably going to get kicked out of the league because his talent is not as great as people assumed it would be. So he was probably going to flame out of the league. That's the direction he was trending.
That's probably right. That's probably
so now that he sees that there's no hope for him, now he's willing to lash out. That's why I'm saying you should have took the first steps before your talent was wasted or you felt like you weren't going to be the star that you thought you were going to be. And you should have took that money and gave it all away. Because people would stand behind that. People would say, man, this is a person.
So this is an interesting theory. So you think this is all last test, basically, that he knew he was flaming out, that there was no future for him. So this was just a calculated move on his part?
If you look into it, the man said he prayed at night and God told him that his knee was healed. He's been dealing with an injury.
Yes. He
went to the doctors. They did an MRI on his knee. His knee is still tore up. They said, you got to go home. You can't play. So so clearly this is somebody who's dealing with more than just a righteous thing. This is somebody who's probably dealing with mental issues as well. So as much as I'm calling him a coward, I got to be careful because I understand that he's probably dealing with mental issues that is forcing him to lean into something and to try to, in a perverse way, use something to justify what his mind is telling him. And I don't think he has full control over his mind. But if he was in his right mind, which he'd probably tell you now, then you should have put your money where your mouth was a long time ago. I don't like this coward stuff, condemning the league that you've been participating in. Your body is breaking down from playing basketball. You're giving blood, sweat, and tears to this league, but now you want to criticize them.
God did not make a man to be with a man. God did not make a girl to be with a girl. These are his quotes. All I'm preaching about is Jesus Christ, he later said. And they're liars, bro. This is lying. They're lying, saying my conduct has been detrimental to the team. That's a lie. Ask any one of them coaches in there. Was I a good teammate? All I'm preaching about is Jesus Christ, and they waived me. They say I'm crazy, right? I'm psycho. So he's already addressing that the league is using that as an excuse to silence him. So let me ask you this, Mert. Do you think part of the problem is that he didn't go with the NBA's woke agenda? Because if you look at the NBA, they've done a lot of stuff. They've allowed their players to not stand for the national anthem. They've allowed their players to take anti-gun, police violence stances. They even, I think, during the Orlando bubble, they allowed players to wear expressions on their back, Black Lives Matter and all this kind of stuff on their jerseys. So
They
certain
that on the court too, I think.
Yeah, on the court as well. That's right. So is it that certain expressions are permitted and certain expressions are not? That's the overarching question I have for you, Mert.
Absolutely not, because he's never said anything until now. Now that he's dealing with the possibilities of being forced out of the league because his talent isn't up to par, because he can't stay healthy, now he wants to come out and condemn the league. This is not a free speech thing. This is most likely a mental health thing.
Well, that's you're speculating, and that's your opinion. But
let me finish. This is also he doesn't see any other way out. This is somebody who's not able to look in the mirror and say, you're just not that good. So you're trying to come up with a reason. Because if you happen to get an honest reaction out of those coaches, they would probably tell you he wasn't such a good teammate. He's been hurt. He's been complaining. He's been a disruption. But they have a collective bargaining agreement where you can't come out and criticize the players to the media. So if you ask coaches anything, they're going to have to give either.
Yeah, but you can always get out, confidential sources and leak stuff. Everybody does that all the time.
That's where this is coming from. Leaked. This is where it's coming from, these accusations made against him. So that's the avenues they've already exhausted. Now he wants them to go to the actual people for them to confirm it so that they can have some legal action taken against them.
Why couldn't they have just come back and said, we don't agree with his position.
He's not good enough.
His position does not reflect our views. Just like at the start of our program, there's this whole disclaimer that the views expressed do not express, don't express those of the station. They could have done the same kind of disclaimer.
He's not that talented of a player to warrant all of that blowback, because you will face the persecution of the Christians and anyone else who agrees with him if you were to come out and say we don't agree with them. Because there might be people who do agree with him, but it's in their best interest to keep their ideas separate from what the NBA is promoting. Because what the NBA is promoting is not harming Christianity. It's your opinion that is harming Christianity, but for the most part, Christianity will do just fine. So he's not talented enough to put up and to go through all of those channels. It's not worth it for them. So why do it? No, they just wanted to get rid of him, and that's what they did.
I think the optics and the timings was sucky. That's what I think. Alex, do you think they tried to stifle the guy because he took a position that wasn't woke? He was anti-woke.
And you're a sports guy,
and
Alex.
I'll say this. Look, and he's making billions of dollars now, but LeBron said some anti-cop stuff he was allowed to say on. Now, this is different,
that's right.
But the point is, LeBron James voiced his expression, and he was allowed to stay on and make billions. And
this guy's not LeBron James' talent. Don't try to compare LeBron James to somebody who can't even crack the rotation. That's not the same talent level. Everybody understands
but they're
there
both
are
NBA
differences.
Players is the point.
No. They're not the same talent level. Let's not play that game. Is Mickey Mantle the same as some bum at the end of the bench?
They'll let you get away with nonsense?
Absolutely. You're Lucas Ferrara. You're Lucas Ferrara. You can get away with stuff at your company that somebody who just started the day before.
Well, I own the company. I mean, I own the company, so it's not a good analogy.
So no, it is a good analogy because it's a power thing. If you're talented enough to own a company, that means If you say something, we have to put up with it. LeBron James is talented enough to change organizations, to bring titles, to bring revenue, bring money. It is a partnership between the team and LeBron James. It is not a partnership between Jaden, Ivey, and all these teams who have traded him. If he was so valuable and so talented, he wouldn't be traded. So don't try to make this comparison, oh, they're both NBA players. Okay,
so
we're
it's a
all
function.
American.
Did you agree, Alex? I don't know. He seems to think it's okay if you're a successful player and not okay if you're a failed player. And that because Jaden was a ladder, he gets canned for saying something about Jesus Christ. It doesn't make sense to me, Alex.
Well, if he only said that about Christ, then that's fine. But I get where Mert's coming from that. However, yeah, I agree with Mert. The talent level does excuse because Ohtani and his gambling, he never got kicked out of the league for that. So I get where Mert's coming from with that too. So,
but that does that make it right, Alex? Come on, you agree with Mert all the time.
I believe there should be standards, absolutely, that we all need to be held to. Players and non-players. Well, and I feel like if you're going to go on Twitter and bash cops, you need to face some consequences about that, just like Ivey's facing consequences here.
Yeah, go ahead and throw out your business trying to stick up and have some moral high ground when it makes no sense to do it. Everybody understands exactly what's going on. If you're talented, if you're smarter, if you're more famous, you have a little bit more latitude. For both of you to try to sit up here and act like that's not the world we live in is insane. Because, Lucas, you're a big-time millionaire. You know when you walk into a certain restaurant or something like that, they already have your seat ready for you. But if old Mert tried to walk into that same restaurant, I wouldn't get treated the same way. They'd laugh me out of there. They say, this table is set up for Lucas.
Yeah, get out of my table. What are you doing at my table?
I would say, does Lucas own the restaurant? They say, no, he doesn't own it, but he's a big spender. He's bringing in a lot of business, so you get out of here. It's a partnership. They would treat you better than they would treat me, and you understand it because you've been living this lifestyle a long time. You get special treatment everywhere you go. As famous and big time as a lawyer as you are, and I'm ashamed that you would try to go down this path because you should know better.
Well, it struck me as selective intolerance. Christians in the league are watching, Mert, so they say something that's anti-woke, and all of a sudden they're cut, and it's claimed to be. I think the optics are just horrible, Mert.
Well, before you go, because I know we can run out of time. He said something against gays and Christians who are both in the league, so he's not going to have support either way. You attack the gays, and then you attacked the Christians, so it makes no sense because there are gay people running the NBA and in the NBA. So you can't attack both groups because you're not going to have any support. So he didn't even operate or run this plan in a thorough and effective manner. You can't attack everybody. Like, come on. It makes no sense what he did.
Well, look, bottom line, this isn't black and white. Jaden Ivey spoke its truth. Consequences followed. The NBA protected its brand. Fans are divided. Sports and society collide again. I just think they handled it all wrong, Mert. And whether you see him as a martyr for faith or a liability who crossed the line, the conversation is here and it ain't going away. And you know what ain't going away? You're listening to episode 91 of Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas Live. This is Lucas Ferrara, and with me in the studio which is located in the heart of the financial district, is my co-host, Mert Roberts, affectionately known as the Mertinator. Working the board is none other than Alex Garrett. He's got a 5-star rated podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. Please check it out. Of course, let's not forget Hermine Santos is all the way back in master control, keeping things rolling. And we've got all our friends behind the scene who keep this show running like a steady ship on course, and we thank them. When we come back, we'll be joined by Reverend Dr. Terrlyn L. Curry Avery. Terrlyn L. Curry Avery. She's a pastor psychologist who talks straight about how racism shows up in our bodies and churches, our daily lives. Me, Mert, Alex, all of us in AM 970 will be returned after these quick messages. Stand by, because Dr. Avery will be stepping into our studio. She will dismantle racism the way some people dismantle IKEA furniture. Don't move. She's coming up right after the break.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate. MyPillow and MyPillow employees want to thank you for your great support this year. They want to make 2026 the best year ever, so to thank you, they are giving you free shipping on your entire order and wholesale pricing. For example, the classic MyPillows, regularly $49.98, now only $17.98. Turn any mattress into the best mattress ever with the made-in-the-USA MyPillow My Mattress Topper and save up to $100. Get a set of MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets for as low as $29.98 and the 6-pack towel set for only $39.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code JOEP or call 800-651-0798. These offers won't last long, so call 800-651-0798 or go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code JOEP. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code JOEP or call 800-651-0798. Order now and your entire order ships absolutely free.
Feel like you're trying to push a boulder uphill wearing skates? If you run or manage a local business today, you're challenged like never before. We get it, and we want to help. We're Salem Surround, and when it comes to marketing, consider us your personal move you forward company. In a recent study, we found that 53% of local businesses were classified as novices when it came to designing, implementing, and managing their marketing needs. And that's where Salem Surround truly shines. We're a full-service marketing agency that'll help you increase your customer base by designing incredibly effective plans to reach your consumers day, night, and everywhere they might be. Let us give you an absolutely free audit of your current marketing and what your competition is doing. Our digital sales and support teams are the best in the industry and deliver customized personal service that's second to none.
If you're a local business and ready for the next step, Google Salem Surround New York right now. Our experts are ready to help you take your marketing to the next level. Google Salem Surround New York today.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Interesting tune. What's that one called, Alex?
All right, so this is Love in a Time of Hate by Mar Mixer.
Love in a Time of Hate. Perfect, given our next guest. We're honored on this Easter Sunday to be joined by Reverend Dr. Terrlyn L. Curry Avery, known to many, and you're going to love this, Mert, Dr. TLC. She's a licensed psychologist ordained minister, spiritual leader, and the author of a book called Dismantling Racism, Healing Separation from the Inside Out. Her groundbreaking work sits at the intersection of race, trauma, spirituality, and organizational healing, helping individuals and institutions confront the wounds of racism while building pathways toward wholeness, justice, and belonging. She's a creator of the Sacred Intelligence Framework, a spiritually grounded approach that guides people to honor their divine worth, recognize the worth of others, and make choices that uplift communities rather than divide them. Through this lens, she leads leaders, companies, and faith communities in dismantling the internal and systemic barriers that perpetrate inequity. She's a sought-after speaker, consultant, retreat leader. She works with organizations across the country to address bias, burnout, cultivate inclusive leadership, and build workplaces where people feel seen, valued, and safe. It is an absolute honor to have the Reverend on the program this evening. Thank you for joining us, Reverend.
Thank you so much for having me.
Doc, what would you say is the underlying cause of racism? Is there one, or is there many factors? I know this may sound like an ignorant question, but people have issues with the word racist or racism, and can we help define it for them?
Well, absolutely. So you asked me about 3 questions right there. And so let's start with your first question. You said, what is the underlying cause of racism? And ignorance is really the underlying cause of racism. And that ignorance has been perpetuated by a system that really feeds into our fears and our ignorance, and we'll say one group is better than the other group. And we're really born into a racist system. You, I, all of us were born into this system that has existed for hundreds and hundreds of years.
And how do you define racism? That was my second and third question, so that our listeners can understand at least the framework or the definitional parameters. What is racism?
Well, racism is any time we decide that one group based on color, and particularly it's involving people of color, that they are inferior to another group, which is usually white people. So that's where the term sort of originates from. And it's a term that is based on power, because I know the argument is often, well, that means that Black people or brown people can be racist as well. Well, we typically do not have the same power. So if we look historically at the definition, we're talking about based on power. Now, Black and brown people can be prejudiced, but the racism piece involves when one group believe it's superior to the other group.
Interesting. Mert, my co-host Mert Roberts would like to ask you a question. Go right ahead, Mert. Mert. Did we lose Mert, Alex? Oh, we lost Mert. You talk in the book about bias burnout. What is bias burnout, Doc?
So bias burnout is really an emotional and a mental exhaustion, usually in marginalized people, from constant exposure to bias, discrimination, microaggression, systemic inequities. It usually happens in the workplace. So, for instance, if we take a group that's based on race, that could be people of color, there is a term called racial battle fatigue, which was coined by William Smith, and it really talks about a race of people that feels dismissed or demeaned in hostile environments. So that's what racial and bias burnout refers to.
Now, I think we have Mert back. Are you back, Mert?
Yeah, yes.
There he is, Doc. Watch for the Merdinator, Doc.
The question that I wanted to have you clarify, because you would be better than anybody to clear this up. When we're talking about white people being racist, how do you explain to poor white people if they're racist or not? Can poor white people be racist, or are we talking about the ones who own the establishments? Is it a totality thing, or is it a specific group of white people who we're talking about?
So let me just say this. White people who are poor or impoverished can absolutely be racist. I can tell you from firsthand experience, I grew up in a very small town in Mississippi, and we had poor white neighbors who had much less than we did. And they would come to our house, they would borrow food all the time from us. At the end of the day, they thought they were better than us simply because of the color of their skin. And it was like, well, at least I'm not, and I won't say the word that they would use or whatever. So
Right.
even then, they thought they were better than. But I want to clarify something here. Poor white people have a very hard time in this country. And to say that one is racist or one is privileged, it does not mean that white people haven't also experienced hardship. That's where we run into the problems sometimes.
Right.
Because when we start to use this word privilege and we're talking to a white person who's had to work hard all of their lives, they begin to say, well, wait a minute, I didn't have privileges. So I want to acknowledge that white people have difficulties in this country just like people of color do. What
And
we're
you know what?
saying is,
Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead.
go ahead, finish your thought, Doc.
and so what we're actually saying is that at the end of the day, it is not based on the color of your skin. It is based on some other things, but not the color of your skin. So when your situation changes, right, you have on, let's say, a different suit, you have the education, you have the money, now your situation is very different than even a person of color in that same situation.
Right. Yeah, so that's a very good way you put that, because I like to get white people, I like to put them at ease so that we can really, discuss just how impactful racism is, because I think that's the main hurdle that we have to get over is how can we make it where we can invite poor white people to participate in this discussion, or just regular white people who had to fight and struggle for their success in life. How can we invite them in? Because in order to clear it up, they're going to have to participate. And if every white person feels like they're on the attack constantly, I think that becomes very difficult to do.
I think we have to first ask the question, why would a white person feel attacked simply by having the conversation? I think that's one of the first things that we have to say. And I found it very interesting that you say we have to put white people at ease. So do you already see the mental gymnastics that a person of color has to do in order to begin to engage in this conversation?
That's a very let me answer that real quick. That's a very interesting thing you say, because I think that's why a man like Martin Luther King is such a special individual, because he was able to do those mental gymnastics and understand it was going to take a lot more than just being aggressive and anti-white and super pro-black. He could be pro-black, but he had to deal with, I'm going to have to go speak to some of these white folks out here and try to get negotiations and all this stuff. We're going to need their support. So I think the black individuals who can do those mental gymnastics, whether that's wrong or not, is irrelevant to me. It's what's necessary in a lot of cases. But those mental gymnastics, go ahead, sorry.
Yes. So let me just say this, because the approach that I take with my work, everything I do, I take from this place of love. But
Right.
I think what it does is that it requires us to listen. Not everybody can train on this work of dismantling racism. So as a trainer, when I am talking to individuals who are white, because that's mostly the people that I end up training in this space, is that I tell them, I am going to come in from a place of love. We're going to be able to talk about this. You can ask any question that you want to ask of me. But what we will not do is argue, fuss, and fight about this. If you want clarity on language, I can provide that clarity to you. And I do understand, Mert, that I can't walk into a room and say, If you think I think you're a racist, I do, and let's keep moving, right? So any approach that we have with anyone, whether it's in law or whether it's in entertainment, whatever it is, we have to use the tools that we need to use to reach that person. So it depends on the person that I'm approaching with how I would engage in the situation. So for me, we start out in the beginning with saying, what is our sacred motive for addressing this issue of racism?
And
it's
Doc,
not
we
about
will continue this conversation after the break. We have to take a commercial message, but have no fear. Dr. Avery will be rejoining us after the messages. For more information about the Reverend and her work, visit sacredintelligence.com. Sacredintelligence.com. You'll also find her book, Dismantling Racism, on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Stick around. Enlightenment resumes in just a few minutes.
Hey, Scott Jennings here. I want to personally invite you to join me, along with my friend Mike Gallagher, for a powerful week on the Gulf of America cruise, November 14th through November 21st, 2026. That's this year. We'll cruise through crystal blue waters, visit incredible ports like Half Moon Cay and Cozumel, and enjoy the first-class hospitality of a luxury cruise ship. All week long, you'll have time with us. You'll do meet and greets, photo opportunities, Q&A sessions, and the chance to hear behind-the-scenes stories that you can't or won't hear on the air. You'll also be immersed in inspiring keynote speeches and in-depth sessions as we enjoy real connection designed to strengthen your resolve as we mark the 250th anniversary of our great nation. Don't miss this. Sign up today. Look forward to cruising the Caribbean with like-minded people who care deeply about our country. Reserve your cabin today. Text CRUISE to 94878, 94878, or visit scottjenningsshow.com and click the cruise banner to sign up today.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Teach the world that there are only two things that are sacred in this world: God and people. At the largest pro-life event in New York State. Be a lifesaver. Join the Walk for Life at compasscarewalk.com.
The Danielle Gill Podcast, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
Actually lowering prices has rarely ever been an accomplishment a Democrat could even claim. The Democrat modus operandi is to use each crisis as an excuse to pass legislation which increases spending, gives more power to the government, and which will make new crises which they can't then use as an excuse to pass more horrible legislation.
Subscribe for free today on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com. Like AM 970, The Answer? Then don't forget to like us on Facebook. Interact with us. Share your thoughts about your favorite shows. Give feedback to our hosts. Share your opinion on hot topics. Learn about events and more. AM970TheAnswer.com. Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
We are rejoined by Reverend Dr. Terrlyn L. Curry Avery. She's affectionately known as Dr. TLC. I just love that. She's a psychologist, ordained minister, and author of Dismantling Racism. Her work blends spiritual grounding with practical tools for healing and justice. She's back with us now to continue this essential conversation. But for more about the Reverend and her work, please visit her website, sacredintelligence.com. That's sacredintelligence.com. You'll also find her book, Dismantling Racism, on Amazon or wherever books are sold. We'll post the links on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Now, Mert, the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, I didn't know if the Rev wanted to finish up her last point before I continue. Did you want to finish?
Yes, I would. So I just want to say that whenever we are dealing with dismantling racism, we first have to start with what is our sacred motive? What is the reason why we want to have the conversation in the first place about racism? Why do we want to dismantle it? And for me, it's understanding that there's something much bigger than you and I that's operating in this world, and we're only a small part of it.
Now, what is your response when people underestimate that racism is still a factor in all aspects of life? Because a lot of people out there, I seen comments when we posted that we were going to be discussing this, saying, "Oh, here we go again, more racism talk and all this nonsense." What is your response when people have that response to what you do and the impact you're trying to make?
That's a very good question. So I'm glad that you referenced Dr. King earlier. Dr. King had a quote, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and a conscientious stupidity." So Dr. King was not this docile person, right? He understood the power of ignorance and fear. And what I do not do is engage with people who are at that level, who want to argue with me about whether racism exists or not, because that serves no purpose. They are not at a point yet where they're ready to heal from racism or really to be open. They're ready to fight about that. And so for me, I generally work with people who recognize that racism exists. Now, does that mean I never have a conversation with someone who says it doesn't exist? I do a couple of things. I listen, because most often when a person wants to argue with you about whether racism exists, is because they just simply do not understand, and they think you're calling them a racist, and they also think that you're saying, I don't have the same problems. So if I engage by listening to them and letting them get out what they have to get out, then I'm able to ask them to listen to me so I can really respond to those questions. And it gives me a chance to be thoughtful about my responses and not emotional, which is usually where they are when they're engaging in the conversation.
Now, a thought that I just popped into my head and I want to get your response to is, do you think it's wise to tell minorities that they can't be racist? Because I'm just thinking of a scenario. If I own a business and I say I don't like all you white people, and then that white person sues me, they'd probably win. So you think it's wise to tell black people that they can't be racist, or any other minority they can't be racist? Because if we get in positions of power, we still can be held to the same standards of a white business owner.
Mm-hmm. So that is a very good question, and it's also a great teachable moment. I don't use the word minority because you see how the system is already shaping to say we're going to call this group of people minorities and another group of people majority or the dominant group. So that's how subtle racism is baked into our society, and we don't even know it, right? So we're born into this system. So I just want to say that, and to give people something to think about, the words that we use every day. But secondly, absolutely people of color can be prejudiced, and you can be sued for being prejudiced. There's a difference between racism and prejudice. So you can be sued for being prejudiced and discriminating against a person who is white. But in terms of how we understand racism, it's about a system that has advantages for a certain group of people based on their race. So I just want to be really clear about that.
Now, Doc, you've spoken about the spiritual and psychological harm of erasing history. During our first hour, we were talking about a topic like that with Cesar Chavez. Despite all his great accomplishments, the scandals now, he's being erased, he's being canceled. In your view, what are the dangers of sanitizing or rewriting the uglier parts of our history?
Of sanitizing it? Well, it perpetuates racism. It perpetuates trauma, which I've heard you all talk about on the show. If we pretend like nothing existed, we will continue to fight against one another because we're not looking at the traumas of racist society in terms of lynchings and Jim Crow and slavery, because here's where I would say that white people experience trauma too as it relates to racism, but white people usually just don't recognize that, right? And so one of the things that happens is we continue to fight each other when we erase history. We believe the lies that we have been told about, for instance, who our inventors were, who our educators were, who doctors were. And we began to believe that, for instance, when black and brown people are in certain positions or go to certain schools, that they're let in simply because of the color of their skin rather than based on their merit. So those are just a few of the dangers that exist when we don't talk about our history in this country.
Doc, we only have a few minutes left. Your book, tell us about your book and why readers, our listeners, should pick it up and read it.
Well, people should read my book because really if we're going to dismantle racism, any of us, it must start from the inside out. So I talked about having a sacred motive. We also need to have a selfish mindset, meaning turn inward and take a look at yourself. What is your mindset about whether you believe that racism exists, whether you believe that you can be a part of healing it, and then look at our shared movement. Build some sort of consensus around how do I work with other people who are interested in dismantling racism. So it really is about taking a look at ourselves and the larger view of humanity that we all need to heal racism.
Is there if there was a magic wand and you could wave it, what would you do magically to end racism?
Oh my goodness, that's a very good question. I probably would have a big love fest in that we all just, that's really what I could see.
I like that idea. Mert's excited. Mert's excited too.
Wait a minute. If it's a magic wand, why don't I just say, hey, racism is over? Why don't you just do that with the magic wand?
Well, that's
is the
true.
wand magic or not?
I like the party. Let's have a party. Love
That's
fest.
a good one,
He's a party poop. He's a party poop. Did you have a blessed Easter, Reverend? I know it's not over.
I had a wonderful, wonderful Easter. I had church, and then I went and got fed, and then I came home to get ready for the interview. So it's been wonderful.
We're so honored that you joined us. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. For more information about the Reverend and her work, visit sacredintelligence.com. That's sacredintelligence.com.
She has to come back.
Would you come back, Reverend? Would you come back and join us?
Absolutely.
And I want to press you and challenge you more, but I want to make sure that you're not thinking that I'm trying to attack you, because this is a conversation that there's some depth to it that somebody like you would help bring out, and I really want to get you on air and we can do that.
We'll have her back then. And you'll also find her book, Dismantling Racism, on Amazon, wherever books are sold, and we'll have links on our website. Thanks for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Well, my friends, that concludes show number 91. May I hear an amen? Amen. Special thanks to the Burtonator, Mert Roberts, my co-host. 91 amazing episodes. That's 182 hours of live entertainment. And if you think that's easy, you try it. And to Alex Garrett, thank you, my friend. We couldn't have done this show. I don't know why you call it a podcast. It's a show, live radio, without you. And to everyone behind the scenes, Laura Schaefer, Matthew Sample, and Joseph B. Frank Volpe, Ryan Pagano, and let's not forget Hermine Santos and Master Control. Our thanks. Like to remind everyone about my movies. They're streaming everywhere. My latest hit, Manor of Darkness. Check it out. It's an eerie time loop horror. And the New York Times loves it, so I'm sure you'll love it too. And if you're listening to us live, next up on AM 970 Radio, one of my favorite shows, Culinary Confidential, which stars Christina Cates. If you're a foodie or if you're into the restaurant or hospitality industry, her show is for you. Don't miss it. I love it. And don't forget to come back next week. We'll have some more special guests, more topics just for you. Same time, same place. Ciao, ciao.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
Over the last
In times like these, we all need a word of encouragement. From pastor and best-selling author Max Lucado comes the Max Lucado Encouraging Word podcast. With over 40 years of ministry and more than 145 million books sold in 50 languages, Max shares the greatest story ever told, the living Savior who brings hope for a lifetime. Through rich biblical insight, heartfelt storytelling, you'll be reminded that God is always near, always for you, and always in you. Listen to the Max Lucado Encouraging Word podcast, where hope meets your day. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.